Hello. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Creative Work Senior Program. And today we have Prathan with us and Juliana to our Creative Workshop for Pet Care for Seniors. They are from Animal Services from City of Mississauga. Hi, Prathan. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Parathan. I'm a public education officer with Animal Services. I've been working with Animal Services in Mississauga for about 7 years, and I'm really happy to be here today to share some very important information with you guys.
Hi, Juliana.
Hi, everyone. I'm Juliana. I'm not an education officer. I am one of the road officers. So I do the behind the scenes stuff where we go in, we help rescue animals, we take in pets. I have also been with the city for about 7 years, and I probably will be retiring here.
That's very good to know. So before we start our presentation, we have a little icebreaker activity for you guys. So I have some questions I have to ask you. So the first question is, do you have any pets? What are their names?
So I have a Pomeranian, those little tiny dogs. His name is Optimus, named after Optimus Prime. He does have a big personality, and he is a lot of trouble for me, but I love that little guy.
Yeah, we all do. We all love pets. Do you have one?
Oh, yes. I got mine from one of the cases in Orangeville. Her name's Mika. She's a German Shepherd, full of energy. I didn't realize how much energy she was going to have. I think she has a little more than I expected. She's about 6 years old, and we love her very much. She's like our little baby.
Yeah. So people who are connecting online, you can just leave your answers in the chat section. So the next question is, are you a cat person or a dog person?
Ooh, that's hard because we work with animals. Okay, I might lean a little bit more to dogs because I'm a little allergic to cats, but I still will go and give all the cats in the back some TLC when I do see them.
What about you?
Dogs, 100%. Dogs all day. The problem with cats is you don't own cats. Cats own you.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, I'm scared of cats as well because once they scratched me, and since then I've been scared. What is your spirit animal?
I've never thought about this. I'm going to say Pomeranian because it's my dog.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure.
Makes sense.
Oh God, I would say a potato, but that's a vegetable. What's a really lazy animal? I can't even think of one.
Sloth.
Panda?
Panda, yes. I like to sit and eat all day because they eat for like 13, 14 hours straight. So yeah, let's go with a panda. I like that answer.
Okay, so tell me, you have been working with animals like all the time. So has been there a particular type of animal that's been really hard to work with?
I find reptiles because they're all so different. And you don't see them a lot in Mississauga. So sometimes we just recently had someone get mailed 5 alligators, which you do not see that in an anaconda. So you never know how they're going to react. So I find my hardest calls is I see something that looks like a snake, but I don't know what it is because then I'm scared when I get there.
I think any type of animal presents its own challenges. You might encounter a dog that might not be the friendliest. You might encounter a fractious cat or a feral cat. I've had a lot more trouble with feral cats than big aggressive dogs. But yeah, any animal can pose its own dangers or issues, but it's just knowing what to do and how to approach those situations that will help you be safe and keep the community safe.
Yeah, that's the perfect answer, I guess. So we have our last question, and it's a fun one. If you had your human body, but the head of an animal, what animal would you pick?
For sure a wolf, because they're really pretty, and I like to think I'm pretty. So I would want a pretty and good-looking animal.
Okay, I have to get a bigger animal than that. I'd pick a tiger because it can take out a wolf. I don't know.
I kind of see a sloth for you. I don't know why, but it's very fitting.
Well, that was a fun activity. So guys, can we move it on the presentation now? So can we have the presentation, please?
Okay, so we'll begin. Like I said, my name is Paratha, and I'm a public education officer for Animal Services. Animal Services is your go-to resource in the city of Mississauga for anything animal related. So if you have any concerns about domestic animals, so those would be like animals that you own, like a cat, dog, hamster, guinea pig, something like that. We also deal with wildlife on a daily basis as well. So any sort of wildlife that you see outside, raccoons, opossums, coyotes, foxes, white-tailed deer, we deal with that on a regular basis. So Animal Services is out there in the community constantly. We are providing resources and information to help with pet ownership, pet care. We do have licensing and surrendering services. We do attend for animal-related concerns. So those are things that we do on a daily basis. And our mission statement is fostering responsible pet ownership through education and enforcement to promote safe and enjoyable communities. So we do enforce the Animal Care and Control Bylaw in the city of Mississauga. We also enforce the Dog Owners Liability Act. That is provincial legislation for any sort of, let's say, dangerous dog or dog bite incident. Next slide, please. So this is our shelter hours. You can see Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. We are closed. Sundays, we are a 24/7 service. So we are available to be contacted for any sort of animal-related emergency, evening, nights, weekends, holidays. So if you see, in the summertime or in extreme temperatures, a dog in a car, give us a call. Maybe an aggressive dog in the public or a coyote where it shouldn't be. We do respond to those type of calls. We are available, like I said, 24/7. So give us a call at 905-896-5858. That is the Animal Services number if you do require some call for service. So what happens to the animals that come to the shelter? So we wanted to give a little bit of background because we are a resource for you guys. So this is what happens if we ever find an animal that's running at large, or if we pick up an injured animal. This is what we do with them. So if we do find an animal running at large, so without an owner present, once we are able to take custody of the animal, it is brought to the shelter, it is assessed. We also look for anything that would associate that animal to an owner. So with a cat or dog, we check like a microchip, a license, definitely that every cat and dog in Mississauga is required to be licensed to try to reunite the pet with its owner. Unfortunately, if there is nothing associating that pet to that owner, it is very difficult to reunite it with its family again. So oftentimes animals do go up for adoption. There'd probably be about a 10 business day stray hold, and then the animal is assessed for adoption. So it's possible if no owner comes forward to claim the animal, within a couple of months, maybe earlier, animals would go up for adoption. If we do pick up an injured animal, so we get a call for like a dog hit by a car, what we would do is when we take custody of that animal, we do take it to the vet to be assessed, and then a vet would treat the animal for any injuries before it is released. With wildlife, whenever we pick up wildlife, sick or injured wildlife, orphaned wildlife, we do assess them at the shelter and on scene, and we do work with a variety of different wildlife rehabilitation facilitators or facilities in rehabbing those animals. And once those animals have been rehabbed or fully and they're able to be on their own again, they are released within 1 kilometer of where they were found, and that's in accordance with the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Act.
So we're going to talk about a little bit behind the scenes at Animal Services. Like Pero was saying, we are a resource for everyone in the community. This does include seniors. So if we do have pets that we own and we realize that we can't care for any longer, or they do need to go into a protective care, we do offer that service. So when those animals are coming into our care, they get each of their own rooms. We've recently renovated our whole building. So our dogs have their own backyards. Our cats have double cages so that they have lots of room to play and run around. A lot of stuff happens at Animal Services. We have to feed, we have to clean. We do clean our cages almost twice a day to make sure that no diseases spread, because you do got to realize when animals come into the shelter, most of them are stray animals and we do not know their background. So we want to make sure that they are getting vaccinations, that if there's any illness, we're noting it on their charts. We're sending them to the vet if we see any change in their behavior. Next slide. And going back to our enclosures, we have a beautiful outdoor enclosure to give those dogs a feel of what it's like to actually be in a home, because we don't have our own backyards, but we do have one just for the pets. We want to recreate what it's like to be a house pet. Our cats have a beautiful outdoor enclosure as well, so they can't run away, but they do get the opportunity to enjoy some fresh air. And we have a reading room for our seniors to come visit our animals, make them feel comfortable, read to them. So you can see our reading rooms just in the bottom corner over here. Like I said, you bring a book, you cuddle some cats, you cuddle some dogs, you feel good, and the pets feel good. Next slide. So our shelter services and programs. So like I said, we are a very extensive department, and we do want to help as many people as possible. So one of our points down there would be our protective care program. So if we do have an owner that's unfortunately fallen on hard times and is looking for housing and can't care for the animal currently, we will intake that animal. As well, if their owner is arrested, entering the hospital, we will care for that animal for an extended time period to ensure that the animal is safe while its owner is getting treatment. We also do pet adoption, so this is about a pet care. So if you guys are ever looking for an animal and you don't want to go to a breeder, we do have an abundance of animals that come into the shelter, all with each different stories. I know I got my girl from a shelter. Peril also got Optimus from the shelter, and they're some of the best animals you can have because they're so grateful for being saved, and they love the people that take them in. So we do have our TNR programs. So if you're at home and you're noticing that you have a bunch of wild cats in your backyard and there's no owner to those cats, we want to trap, neuter, so that means we're going to fix them so they can't reproduce, and re-release them. So that's a service that Mississauga offers to residents, and it's super helpful to keep the feral cat population down. We also have foster care programs. So if you're not ready for that pet and you'd like to try owning a pet or helping a pet out in need, you can come and join our foster care program, where we have a bunch of homeless pets that are looking to get into a house setting until they're better. So sometimes they can be sick, sometimes they can just be too young for adoption, or some are recovering from a surgery. So that's a program that we offer. Volunteering, we have our reading room. We're always looking for people to come and socialize the animals. The more people that the animals see, the more social that they become. So that's another great activity. So if you ever want to join the program, you can send in an email or call into the shelter. And we have our lost and found services as well. So as a pet owner, if you cannot find your pet, you can call into the shelter and leave a lost report, or continuously call in, because us officers are responding to calls where we're seeing dogs running loose in Mississauga. Another great way as a pet owner to reunite your pets with you is our pet license. So that's a really important thing that we want to tell people, especially if you are getting pets, or if you currently own a pet in the city of Mississauga, you are required to have a license. This will help reunite your pet with you. A lot of people say, I have a microchip. Sometimes you can't get a hold of the microchip company, and if that microchip is associated with our license, we can return your pet on the spot.
So this, we do a lot of educational outreach to the community, and we are always open. So like I said, we are a very big resource for the community. If you have any questions or concerns, we do these type of events for a variety of different organizations. We do work with school boards, so the Peel Catholic District School Board, the Peel District School Board. We work with local counselors. We work with scout groups and other organizations in trying to get information out there. We also put out a lot of those big mobile signs that you see around the community. So you'll see that with all that messaging about feeding wildlife or Stoop and Scoop concerns. We do attend a lot of events. Like Pet Expo we've been to, and a bunch of different other events with counselors and things like that. So if you see us at an event, come say hi. Either me or Juliana will be there. Next slide, please. So this is the interesting part of one of the bigger or more interesting parts of our job. We do a lot of animal rescues. So if you are driving in Mississauga or walking, whatever, if you see a sick or injured animal out and about on your day, give us a call. We can go and attempt rescue of that animal. So we do rescue sick or injured wildlife, orphaned animals. You can see one of our officers attending to a orphaned baby raccoon in this picture. And I believe this is a red-tailed hawk that got itself caught in the net. So we do deal with that. Whenever you see an injured animal, please do not interact with that injured animal. They are very unpredictable. You don't want to put yourself in a very high-risk situation where you or the animal might get hurt. So contact Animal Services if you see anything that is of concern, and we'll do our best to go and attend to it. So like I said, there's one of our signs over there that you'll see in the community. We're going to talk a lot about feeding wildlife that in the city. That is a big challenge. But we are an education department at the city. So we give out a lot of education. Even when we interact with residents in the community, we tend to educate first, depending on the situation, before it gets escalated to any sort of charge or any situation like that.
So when we talk about pet care, it covers a bunch of things, and that means when you're a pet owner, you have rules to follow. Mississauga is fortunate enough that we actually have our own animal care and control bylaw. So as pet owners or future pet owners, here's a couple things that we want you guys to learn about owning the pet and the rules of owning a pet. So as you can see, we have an off-leash dog just up here in the corner. We do not allow animals to roam in Mississauga. We do have a leashing bylaw, so cats need to remain on our own private properties, and dogs cannot be let loose or being allowed to roam off of their own properties. We actually also do have a leash bylaw for length. A lot of people don't realize this, but your leash should only be about 6 feet long, no longer than that, because it does prevent the animals from getting into altercation with other pets, wildlife, and other people. Our license, if you are going to purchase a pet or if you are going to adopt a pet, you are required to purchase a license with the city of Mississauga. So the license is for your dog or your cat. And if you have multiple pets in the unit, each pet gets their own individual license. Like Pero said, this is another important thing. If you are a pet owner and you're feeding your pets, we want you to be feeding them indoors, because if you are leaving pet food outside for your pets, you're attracting wildlife, in which you are breaking the bylaw then, because we do not want any wildlife to come onto the property and be eating the food. So like I said, standards of care is a part of our bylaw. We're super duper fortunate. We're one of the only municipalities that covers standards of care. So this means if you own a pet, you are required to maintain a standard. So we have a few examples here of animals whose standards aren't being met. So if you get a dog, you can have an outdoor dog, but your dog cannot be chained, attached to a cardboard box. It can't be outside in extreme weather. You can see the dog's covered in snow here. They need to have proper, adequate shelter. So this means it needs to have shingles. It needs to be insulated. There needs to be a door flap on the door. If there's food and water, you need to make sure that it's heated in the wintertime, because we do have harsh Canadian weather, and that's not sustainable for some of our pets. Another one of our standard of care bylaws that people don't realize is we're fortunate enough that if you call one of the officers and there is a dog in a vehicle, we can charge for that. So if someone is leaving their dog on a hot day in their car or on a very cold day and it's a small, tiny little chihuahua, that's not acceptable and a charge can be issued. We also have right here, right here, you are not allowed to have your dogs loose in the back of a pickup truck. Again, this all goes down to pet care and what you can and cannot do in the city of Mississauga because we do have laws put in place. Exotic pets. Again, part of our bylaw. When you are considering owning a pet, you need to know what's legal. We do get a lot of people calling into the shelter, for example, asking about chickens. Currently, we do not allow chickens or roosters in Mississauga. They are considered prohibited animals. There is a pilot project happening, but you can only be allowed to do that if you've been given permission by your ward. So when you're adopting a pet or purchasing a pet, check our bylaw because we have something called a Schedule A that lists all our prohibited animals. I think I was mentioning crocodiles earlier. Here are the crocodiles I was talking about. You cannot own crocodiles in Mississauga. And our anaconda that was also mailed to a resident. So make sure you're doing your research, what you can and can't own in the city. You are allowed to own birds. You can own snakes, but there's a specific standard for your snakes. That includes length and whether or not the snake is venomous or not.
So let's talk about feeding wildlife. This is one of the biggest challenges in the city of Mississauga, and it is pretty much the main reason why there is why you're seeing foxes, coyotes in our neighborhood. Wildlife feeding in Mississauga is prohibited. So that means you are not allowed to feed wildlife in Mississauga, period. It doesn't matter if it's a squirrel, chipmunk, rabbit, raccoon, you are not allowed to feed wildlife in Mississauga. The only exception is if you're feeding small songbirds with an adequate bird feeder, something like that, but that's not accessible to other wildlife. And whenever there's any spillage of birdseed, it needs to be cleaned up right away. The reason why we don't feed wildlife, it's because it's actually more of a detriment to the animal and community than it is actual benefit. So if you feed any sort of wildlife, raccoons, wild turkeys, foxes, coyotes, if people are continuously feeding them, they can lose that natural fear of humans and then start approaching humans. And then they'll see humans, they won't see humans as food, but they see humans as an easy source of food. So unfortunately, when people food condition animals like that, that's when the negative incidents can occur from that. What also happens whenever you feed wildlife, like dumping food on the floor or something like that, can attract coyotes, foxes to your property. It can also attract mice and rodents. So that's why we're encountering a lot of issues with rodents in the city of Mississauga, because people are doing things like that. Also, whenever you feed wildlife, it can tend to make large populations of animals like ducks, geese congregate a lot, and that can actually spread disease very quickly. And what we're seeing in the world with the highly pathogenic avian bird flu, when birds congregate, that flu or that disease is just running rampant through those populations, and it's actually killing large portions of those populations. That's why you'll see at the Toronto Zoo that certain bird exhibits are actually closed to the public because they don't want to have any sort of contamination or spread that disease within those bird populations. Next slide, please. So yes, this is something to keep in mind for all the prospective dog owners. You are responsible for the actions of your dog. So Animal Services does enforce the Dog Owners Liability Act. That is the pit bull legislation that was enacted in 2005. So pretty much in that act, it prohibits the owning and transferring and adoption and the breeding of pit bulls, or pit bull type dogs. So the pit bull is actually, that category is actually made up of, I believe, 4 or 5 different breeds, which includes American Staffordshire Terrier, Staffordshire Terrier, Pit Bull Terrier, and any sort of other dog that has similar traits or physical appearance. This legislation is actually very powerful. So it does give Animal Services or peace officers or anybody designated under that act the authority to actually impose better control measures on a dog that they deem that necessary. So if a dog's been involved in any sort of like dog biting incident, menacing incident, anything like that, Animal Service officers like us can actually impose better control measures, such as having the dog muzzled, something like this. having signage put up around your property, imposing restrictions on the age of the dog walker who's walking that dog, or keeping the dog in a fenced area. And we can it actually goes up to the point where we can apply for a warrant to seize a dog that is an issue to the public safety, our public community and public safety. So we deal with a lot of animals at large. So always, anytime you're off your property, keep your dog on leash. It is against the bylaw to have your dog off leash. And like Juliana was said before, it has to be 6 feet, just so you have control of your dog. It's to protect your dog, you, and the community as well. What we do see in Mississauga and other municipalities, dogs often get into issues when dogs are not under the control of the owner. So just remember to keep your dogs on leash. Even cats, we always recommend keep cats indoors, but you can always give your cat a walk with a leash. I know it sounds funny, but that is the best way to keep control of your cat. So we do deal with a lot of animals at large, dogs all the time, domestic rabbits and other domestic pets. We often do get calls about people actually dumping rabbits, cats, whatever other animal in our green spaces. So we do respond to those calls. We deal with livestock more often than not. So that I believe that was a tractor trailer carrying pigs that was flipped over on the 403, I believe, and then we did respond to that to help the OPP. So we get snake calls all the time, livestock calls like chickens and roosters, and then just domestic birds in the public.
Okay, so we're just going to quickly go back to talking about some of the things that Mississauga does, and how we obtain our cats that you can adopt at the shelter. We do have our stray cats in Mississauga, which is why we offer the TNR, which is the Trap, Neuter, and Release program, to eliminate the feral cat population and to stop them from reproducing. So when we do get calls for a cat, the cat is required to be confined, whether that be in a carrier or a box. The officer will then pick up the animal and have it for a retention period for approximately 3 days. We will get the cat medical help, as well as we will vaccinate the animals coming into our care. And once that period is up, we make the decision whether or not the animal will be going to rescue, will be a TNR cat, so it will be released but fixed, or whether or not it will be going up for adoption. You can go to the next slide. Abandoned pets. This is another way we find pets coming into our care. Unfortunately, these are photos that we have taken on cases. So you can see someone left us a note right here. It says, "Sorry, 3.5-year-old Daisy is not fixed and has never had her shots. I can no longer care for her. Please take her. Thank you." So this happens a lot more often than you expect. So I'm going to come over to this photo right here. It's a Keurig box with some food on it. You can see the cats right in here. Someone dumped their cat at the front of the shelter. If you are not able to care for your pet anymore, please do not do this. This is not the right way to do it. This doesn't help us because we don't know how old the animal is. We don't know what the animal's temperaments are. We do have a surrender. If you are no longer able to care for your pet, you can contact Mississauga Animal Services to relinquish your ownership of the animal. You can go to the next slide. Hoarding. It's really, really big. Sometimes you don't know it's happening. It can be happening with your next door neighbor and you would never even know. These are just a few calls that we unfortunately have had to go to. It does have to deal with a lot of our mental health in Mississauga. So when someone is a hoarder, they can be a hoarder of things, and that it also includes pets. I myself have gone to a number of calls where we do see an abundance of animals. My last call I went to, I think she owned 15 cats, and she only liked black cats. So she had about 15 black cats in a very, very small, maybe 400 square foot apartment with the tiniest kitchen and the tiniest living room and bathroom. But she was living with an additional 15 cats and caring for herself. We are a resource for people that see family members in hoarding situations, or if you yourself feel like you're a hoarder and you need to reach out to Mississauga, we will work with residents in reducing their numbers and receiving the help and care that they need.
So yes, so we deal with animals in very dangerous situations. We respond to calls like this, where a dog was on the railroad tracks. We did have to contact, I believe it was CN Rail, to shut down the train so we can go safely try to get this dog. We get calls like this very often, where dogs are on highway overpasses or on the highway or in busy sections of road. Not even just dogs, just any sort of animal, wildlife or domestic. So we do respond to those type of calls. Give us a call if your dog. Let's say if your dog is in a dangerous situation like that, give us a call. We can definitely come help. Like I said before, we are a 24/7 emergency service. So evening, nights, weekends, days, mornings, holidays, whatever, we are here. Give us a call. We will respond and try to attend the situation and try to save whatever animal that is in need. So we work with a variety of different agencies. So we work with local police. We work with fire, for the fire department. We work with the sheriffs whenever there is any sort of eviction or landlord-tenant board issue. We also work with the Ministry of Natural Resources and local rehabilitation facilities. So we do have local partners that we do work with, and not so local partners. But if there are concerns or issues with any sort of animal, we are there to give it the best treatment or best response and trying to deal with those type of concerns.
So again, we are here for the residents of Mississauga. So as pet owners, if you face a disaster, as you can see, we threw up some examples for you guys. We had the train derailment in 1979, and then the Hickory Drive explosion. So these were pet owners, and like Pero said, we do work with emergency services. So these pet owners were met with devastation. Homes were ruined. They had pets. They had nowhere to go. When you're placed in a hotel, sometimes they don't allow pets into the hotel. So you can call us. I mentioned something called protective care. This is a service offered to pet owners. And as a pet owner, you should always have an emergency plan. That's one of the most important things when it comes to pet care, is plan something out. Do you have someone that can take your pet in an emergency? Do you know if your local municipality offers a service where they will care for your animal until you are back on your feet? Again, we are super fortunate at the City of Mississauga where we do have this put in place. So the people that were involved in these two tragic incidents, they were able to get housing at Mississauga for their pets, and we cared for them until the insurance companies or until they were able to find a place to stay with their pets. So that's something to always remember when you own pets, is we are here to help you, and you should always, always, always have an emergency plan in place in case something happens. Next slide. We do want to touch up on some of our bylaws, even though we're here for our pet care. We do see sometimes wildlife issues, and that normally what it comes down to is residents feeding the wildlife. Sometimes it's not intentional, like I brought up. If you go to feed your dog outside and you forget to bring the food inside, or you're trying to feed the neighborhood cat, we do not allow that in Mississauga. The food needs to be removed so you are not attracting wild animals. Because if you have a habit of leaving food out in your yard, you are bringing in your coyotes, your foxes, your raccoons, and there could be an altercation with your pet, and you never want to do that. I know Mika, my dog, got sprayed by a skunk, and it's my fault because I have a vegetable garden that my local skunk likes to come to every day, and I learned my lesson. I now have my vegetable garden all fenced off, with mesh on top to prevent any wild animals from going in. And I did see the elimination of skunks. I no longer have skunks. I learned my lesson. My dog got sprayed, but I now no longer have skunks because I removed that attractant. So you as a pet owner are responsible for keeping your pets safe. Another thing is, as a pet owner, you need to vaccinate your pets. We need to vaccinate our pets against distemper, feline leukemia, rabies. We do have animals that are considered rabies vectors on the screen right now. It doesn't mean they have rabies, but they can contract rabies. So that's your raccoon, your foxes, and your coyotes, right? They can also contract distemper, all of which are canine diseases that can be spread to our dogs. So make sure you're vaccinating your pets. Do not leave attractants in your backyard because you will be attracting wildlife into your yard, which, again, your pet can contract a disease or it can get in an altercation with a wild animal. Okay, so wildlife rescue. We do get a lot of calls, and this is a reminder you need to check your backyards because if you go to let your dog out, you may have a skunk in the yard just in case. This skunk was stuck, but he couldn't get out. So if you are noticing that you have an abundance of wildlife that is sick or injured in your yard, you can call us because we do not want yourself or your pets entering your yard while there is a wild animal out there. And then just for the record, the skunk in the photo was saved. We did help it. It was a baby, and its mom was waiting for it just off to the side.
To instill some trust in animal services, here are some stats that we brought up for so that you can trust your local shelter with. So we do have a pet save rate of over 97.4%. So whenever animal comes into the shelter, it comes in, within our custody, we do whatever we can to go save that animal. So, we do have adoption and pet services available at the shelter. And just another thing that we do have is something called our Special Care and Resources Fund. It's SCARF. So that fund is actually used for any sort of medical care that animals might need that comes comes into our custody. So like if an animal has maybe a tumor or an eye injury that needs additional funds to be treated, that fund does go towards those type of medical stuff. We do have a lot of training for all our staff, so we ensure that animals that do come into our custody do get the best treatment available, and we do have the best response available for any sort of animal. So this is the big one. A lot of you are looking to maybe adopt a pet or get a pet from a breeder, or maybe take care of maybe a family member's pet or someone that you know. So there are certain things that you must consider before owning one or even taking care of one. So you got to think about what type of pet is right for you. So whether it's a cat, dog, hamster, guinea pig, rabbit, you want to know if you or your family, if you do have kids or a partner or anything like that, may be allergic to it. So you don't want to get a dog, adopt a dog, go through that whole process, bring it home, and then to find out that your child or your partner or significant other is allergic to them, because then it is going to cause some unfortunate stress that way for both the dog and yourself. So also remembering that certain pets are lifelong family members. So small dogs can live up to 18, 20 years, small cats as well. So remembering that they do have a long lifespan. Even rabbits, I think rabbits live 10, 15 years, some can. So remembering that. So also, you want to remember, whenever you adopt a dog or any sort of animal, you want to make sure that it's permitted in your municipality. So Mississauga does have a set of rules under our animal care and control bylaw, what is prohibited and what is permissible. So like I said, pit bulls are not permitted in Ontario, so that you are not allowed to adopt one of those or breed any of those. So that's something definitely to look into if you want to adopt a certain animal. Also, like Juliana was saying before, crocodiles, poisonous, venomous snakes, those are a big no. You cannot own those type of animals. So if you do have any questions, always contact contact us, or if you don't live in Mississauga, contact your local animal services. So, sorry. So something to also consider is there is financial costs associated with owning a pet. So there's always the food that you have to buy for it, maybe veterinary costs, any sort of like grooming costs, like you gotta cut the nails of your dog every couple of months, sometimes depending on how fast they grow. So there's things like that you do have to consider. Well, also, what you need to consider is having a backup plan. So if there's any sort of emergency situation, or even just something like if you're going on vacation and you have no one to babysit your dog or babysit your cat or your animals and who's to feed them, always make a plan. So have someone available, do that. Someone to give them exercise if you're not available. Having a little fund available if like any sort of emergency that comes up, or if some sort of disease unfortunately somehow your pet gets, that you want to be able to be ready for those type of situations. So like I said, we are a resource for you. Contact Animal Services if you need any sort of help or information, and we are there for you. So we'll be talking about dogs and the pet care of dogs. So remember what I said. You got to determine what breed is right for you. So if you're going to get like a working dog or a larger breed type of dog that is maybe full of energy, like let's say a border collie, those do require a lot of energy, a lot of walks, a lot of things that will expend their energy, so they don't redirect that energy into more negative things. So you got to make sure what pet is okay for you. If you're like me and don't like taking walks all the time or just sitting on my butt all the time, that's something a dog like that might not be the best fit for you. But also, do you want a puppy? You want to go through the whole puppy process, teaching them tricks and house training them, or do you want an adult dog that maybe has already been taught all of that? There's a lot of things to consider. Remember what I said about lifespan. Always consider how long they're going to live and be prepared for that. And just like I said, dogs do require a lot of exercise to prevent disease, also to use up their energy so that it's not redirected in any other sort of form or a negative way. So sometimes dogs do need multiple walks, and maybe even long walks. Huskies, border collies, shepherd type dogs definitely need a lot of energy expenditure, things like that, and also consider training. Training is a big thing to definitely look at whenever you're adopt a dog or cat, because it can definitely help you with owning that animal, with maybe socializing that animal, and making sure that it is safe for you and the community. So yes, so here's some tips for dog owners. So pet-proof your home. Always, so like if you know your dog runs out the door when you open it, maybe putting some sort of barrier that will help prevent it from running out. Same with cats. Cats are all the same. My dog, my little Pomeranian, he loves just darting out the door anytime I open it. Oh, and also back to the leash thing. Keep your dog on leash anytime it's off your property. Many dogs, not just my dog. If it sees a squirrel, you'll see dogs just take off, and you don't want them running across the road and maybe possibly getting into a motor vehicle accident or being involved in a motor vehicle accident, because oftentimes it's not a good outcome. Supervise your dog when it's on your property. I can't stress that enough. If your dog needs to go to relieve itself in your backyard or somewhere on your property, always supervise your dog in close proximity. So be close to it. It does lower the chance of any sort of negative conflict with wildlife, not just foxes or coyotes. Oftentimes, smaller dogs can get into incidents with larger birds of prey. Another thing is always socialize your dogs as well, so they can behave appropriately with other dogs, with strangers, or with people in your household or other family members. So those are some things to just keep in mind. Regular vet visits and vaccinating your dog are all very important.
Okay, so like Pero, I'm going to dive a little bit into more detail for our pet care, which is why we're here today. What I'm going to bring up is also for our cats and kittens, but it also applies for all animals that we do decide to adopt and bring into our homes. If you don't mind going to the next slide, we can see all the points. So what are you going to do? Are you going to adopt a dog? Are you going to adopt a cat? Are you going to go to a breeder? Do you know if you're allergic to the pet? So we do have hypoallergenic animals. I believe the only one for cats is the Sphinx. So that is the hairless cat. So they look naked. And then your dogs, you have your golden doodles, your hair dogs, the ones that don't come with fur. So those breeds need special care. So when you're adopting a Sphinx cat, that cat needs to be bathed almost daily. It needs to have a moisturizer applied to the skin. You need to care for their feet as their feet scab. So you need to really, really, really do your research on what breed you are getting and whether or not you can maintain that breed's requirements. So again, short-haired, long-haired cats require brushing. Short-haired cats, you can get away with just leaving them. They'll groom themselves. But your long-haired and your medium-haired cats need almost brushing daily or they mat themselves. And if your cat's overweight and can't reach, then it's going to cause some grooming issues there as well. Nail trims, it should be done every 6 to 8 weeks. Pets with hair that need haircuts and baths, again, every 6 to 8 weeks. If you can't do that yourself and you're not properly trained to do so, that is also another financial expense that you need to go through and make sure that you can afford when adopting these specific breeds. And lifespan, cats can live for a very long time. A lot of people don't realize they can live up to 20, 23 years old. I've met a cat that was older than me once when I was 19, which is pretty shocking. Same with our small dogs. I'm going to also just add in an animal that's not up there, but our birds. People don't realize some of our bird species can live up to 70 years, going on record for 100 years. So are you prepared to make that lifelong commitment to owning that animal? And if you're no longer here, do you have a backup plan? Do you have someone that's willing to care for our pets? Cats. Cats don't go outside like dogs to use the washroom. Cats use litter boxes. Are you using the proper litter? Does your cat like the litter? Sometimes they'll go to the bathroom outside of their litter box. This can be a big indication that something's wrong with that animal. So learn the behaviors of your pets. If something is off for your animal, sometimes that means it needs to go to a vet visit, right? So you need to make sure that you have the proper funds to treat your animal if something like that does come up. You can go to the next slide. Again, I can't emphasize this is enough for pet owners or for someone that wants to get a pet. Cats should remain indoors. If your cat is going to go outside, it is to stay with you on your own property. It may not roam. There are so many dangers for such a small animal. Same with the dog. You have your wildlife. You have someone that finds it and just decides to keep it so you no longer have a cat and you don't know where the cat has gone. You have people, there's cars. It's so, so, so dangerous. And if I can get anything out to anyone today about pet care, it's about keeping your dogs on leash and keeping your cats indoors. Sometimes another good idea is look into pet insurance. Do you have a pet that you found out has a continuous allergy to something that needs specialty food or specialty medication? The dog could be diabetic. Look into pet insurance and see if that's something that they cover and that they can help with. I know my dog is an absolute disaster and hurts herself almost 3-4 times a year. So I have pet insurance because it saves me a lot of money on what I would have to pay if I didn't have pet insurance. Cats, sometimes they're not social animals, they're solitary animals. So you need to know, hey, if I get this cat, am I prepared only to have this one pet and not be able to get other pets in the house? And again, making a plan for the unexpected. Like I said, I want you guys to take back from don't allow your cats outside. I want you to remember, don't let our dogs off leash. And I want you to remember, have that backup plan. If something happens to you, something happens to a family member, there's an emergency, you want someone to be there for your pet. We're here. You can leave it in a will, or you can let another family member know that if something were to happen, please contact, say, animal services. Please contact my neighbor. We just, in case of emergency, anything can happen, make sure your pet is covered in that situation. Next one. Again, cats are safe and happy indoors. Keep your cats inside. Next slide. So we just want to thank you guys all today. I believe you said we're going to have a Q&A, correct?
Yeah, we have.
So if you have any questions for us that relates to pet care, even if it's not related to pet care, whether it's bylaws or anything like that, we're happy to answer your questions.
The first question we have is, how do I adopt a pet? Like, what are the requirements?
So first off, you got to ask yourself, what pet do you want? Am I fit for this pet? And then you start your research. There's something called Pet Finder online. It's a list of all different municipalities and rescues that have pets. Everywhere is different, but you are required to come out, fill out a form, and you have to be pre-approved. Sometimes if us, who know the pet the best, feel that you don't match the pet's needs, you will be denied, but we do have an application process. If you are approved for that adoption, you can take the pet home that same day.
I just want to add something to that as well. Never buy a pet as a gift. If you're buying it for someone, like family, like another family member or somewhere, or like a friend or anything, you don't know if that pet's going to be a good fit for them. So it's always best for the prospective pet owner to come. I guess work with the animal or see the animal, interact with the animal that they want to adopt before adopting it. You don't want to get an unknown animal for another person if you don't know if that is going to be a good fit for them.
Yeah, and that was informative. Yeah. So next question we have is, you mentioned about a pet license. So people are asking, like, is it important for everyone to get that?
Yes, it's actually the law to have. If you are in Mississauga, you are required to have your pet license. We've saved so many pets in case of emergency. For example, I'll kind of give you guys the situation that we had. The people weren't home, and the police and fire were responding for a fire in the house. They actually contacted animal services to find out if there were any pets in the home. And because that pet was licensed, they were able to go in and save the cat's life because they knew that there was a licensed animal at that house. It helps Mississauga return your pets. And again, it is the bylaw to have your license for your dog and cat. So it's not an option to have it. If you own a pet in the house, you are required to have that license.
Yeah, that's helpful. So next question we have is, what should I do if I suspect a neglected dog in my neighborhood?
Contact Animal Services. We are the first point of contact for any sort of animal-related concern. So that number again is 905-896-5858. So we would be the first point of contact. We do our investigation. If it does get to an escalated point, we can involve police or the Provincial Animal Welfare Agency or PAWS. So yes, we would definitely deal with that.
We have another question. It's, how often should I groom my pet?
So it depends on your animal. Personally, I am a believer of every 6 to 8 weeks, even if you just have a pet with short hair. I don't like fur on my floor. I do not like vacuuming, and I do not like sweeping. So that does assist in all the shedding. But coming from someone who regularly grooms her dog, I do recommend every 6 to 8 weeks. If you allow your dog's or cat's nails to get long, sometimes they can curl up into the paw pad. So you just want to make sure that you're regularly maintaining that. And it gets the animal used to it too, right? So you're not, if you have to take it to the groomer, it helps the groomer able to finish the dog a lot faster. You're not putting your animal in an uncomfortable position.
And we have another question. How often should I walk my dog?
It depends on the dog. If you should always give your dog exercise. There is no legislation available saying how much any dog needs to be exercised, but you're gonna get to know your dog. Larger breeds of dogs usually need more exercise than smaller breeds, and if you're getting like if you look at the Canadian Kennel Club and you can see the types of breeds, like if it's a working breed or a larger type of dog, they do require a lot more walks and a lot more energy expending exercises. So going to like an off-leash park to expend their energies, just so they don't redirect that energy into more negative outlets.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I have a shepherd, and I run 5 kilometers with her, and still have to take her for a second walk in the evening. So all dogs are different. That is why we can't emphasize it enough. Do your research, Google it. You can call Animal Services if you do have that question. We're always happy to answer your question.
Yeah, so all the pets are different, I mean. So yeah, depends. There's one more question. Should all pets be neutered? Is it a requirement?
It's not a requirement, but it is highly recommended. Neutering and spaying your pets does eliminate unwanted litters. We do have so many animals that require homes right now, and the population, we do see, unfortunately, we do see a high feral cat population. We see a high feral dog population up north. So by spaying and neutering your pets, you're eliminating that and you're not contributing to the problem. And again, going back to medical care, it stops prostate cancer, it stops ovarian cancer, because our pets do get them. And unfortunately, we do see a lot of our animals come into the shelter unfixed, and they do tend to have some medical issues relating to not being fixed. So it's not a rule, but it is highly recommended by vets as well as Mississauga Animal Services. Can't recommend it enough to spay and neuter your pets.
Yeah, that's helpful. So it's highly recommended. So you should follow it. So we have a comment from the chat section. It's written, my cat was left in front of a resident that worked at an animal shelter when he was 2. With just a name, blanket, and food, I took him home from the pet shelter, and he's now my best friend for over 10 years.
See, we love to hear stories like that. And if you do adopt them from our shelter, we love the updates. And it just goes to show you, he became your best friend. Some of the animals that come into our shelter that are adopted, they are so grateful. My girl came from a situation where her owner unfortunately broke her teeth. She lived outside. And you know what? This dog sleeps on the couch. She cuddles me. She's the happiest dog. So we're so happy that you were able to save a life. So us at Animal Services, thank you for choosing to adopt instead of purchasing an animal.
We have one more question. It's written, which breed dog should we have as pets? Like, it's the most recommended.
It's your lifestyle. We can't give you that recommendation. I'm an active person. I like to run. I like to play sports. So I have a very active dog. Pero is a potato. Pero likes to sit on the couch and eat chips. Exactly. So he has a very lazy, small dog, right? So if you can give us an idea of what your lifestyle is, we can definitely recommend it. Some of our most high energy dogs are our border collies. We often see our golden retrievers in households. People think Jack Russells are lazy. That is probably the most energetic dog I've ever seen in my life. So don't get a Jack Russell if you like staying home and doing nothing.
Yeah, always, whatever dog that you're looking for, always interact with the dog before adopting. Just don't go blindly into a situation. Do your research. Work with the dog or check out the dog or pet that you're looking for, just so that it's a good fit for you. Don't get a dog that might not be a good fit for you, because then it's just going to be a lot more problems.
Yeah, and you can visit the shelter too to give an idea of what you can and can't handle, and what we do allow people to walk our pets, and we do allow people to play with the cats. It also helps you realize if you're allergic to them or not. So before buying a pet, I didn't add that in the presentation, but before buying a pet, maybe go down to a shelter and spend a little time in there. And I don't mean like 5-10 minutes, maybe spend about an hour and a half to see if you're actually allergic to the pet. So it prevents any rehoming after purchasing a pet.
And just one more thing, you can actually go online on our Animal Services website and see what animals we do have for adoption. So, and then if you do see an animal that you want to get to know more a little bit better, contact the shelter to schedule an appointment to see that animal.
So we have one more question. I have been worried to call about a stray animal for fear it would be put down at the shelter. Does this happen often?
No, we have such an amazing program. When we get feral cats, so that means say a wild cat, they do not get euthanized unless we are recommended by a vet. We always get a second opinion before euthanasia. And typically when something is euthanized, it means it's either terminally ill or it's severely injured that it probably won't survive. So like Pero said, we have a 97.4 save rate. I actually think it might be a little bit higher because that was just from last year's stat. But we do not see that at Mississauga. We have such a great program. So if you are seeing a stray cat, assess the cat, see if it's feral. If you find that it's feral, so that means if it's wild, call us about our TNR program and we'll fix and we'll spay and neuter the cat. If it's a friendly cat, call us. If it has some issues, we'll send it to a rescue or we'll try and work with it until it's adoptable.
Yeah, and contrary to popular belief, well, we don't kill everything that comes to the shelter. We go to great lengths to save every animal that comes into our custody or that any animal that we interact with. So just know that any animal is going to get the best care whenever we deal with it.
And that includes wildlife too. And I can speak from experience. I am a road officer. I actually didn't euthanize a single wild animal last year. Everything I picked up went to a rehab center. So it was rehabbed by all the staff at all the different municipalities that assist us. And we work with some pretty amazing rescues for domestic and wild animals to prevent any euthanasia from happening.
That's great. I mean, wildlife is important as well our pets. So
we're all in this job together, right? So people got to realize I wouldn't be working somewhere where I have to kill animals. That's
exactly.
For sure.
Yeah. So we have just one more comment. I trained my cat to love a leash. Now I get to take him outside without worrying about her staying away.
Oh, and we
Awesome.
love that. Thank you for doing that. Everyone should do it. Because if you're going to have a pet, I'd be stressed out taking my cat out, but it makes me feel a lot better knowing that you've trained it and the cat's not stressed out and it can go out on a leash.
Yeah, what if a cat needs a walk as well? I mean, what should other people do?
Yeah, just get them used to it. You start them young, you put a harness on them, you walk with them outside. First off, I would put them in a carrier and walk up and down the street. This way that they get used to the sound of cars, they get used to seeing people and other vehicles. If you have them on a leash, sometimes they panic and they squirm around. So for a little bit, take them out in the carrier and then slowly introduce that leash in the harness in the house because a lot of cats don't like moving when the harness is on.
Also consider having a catio or like an enclosed outdoor space in on your property, just so not all cats like being walked on leash. So that is an option to use. So it's still getting its outdoor exercise or outdoor time, but it's not going to be able to escape your property and get into trouble. So that's something definitely to look into if your cat wants to be outdoors.
Yeah, that's helpful. So if you guys have any problem or any issue regarding any animal or someone needs care, you just have to contact them and they will be at your service. As they have told, like, they're available 24/7, so you can contact them anytime and they will be there to help them. And so there's one more question in the chat. How effective are pets in helping seniors who experience mental health issues, and in what ways does it help?
And we see this a lot. It's a companion. It's sometimes being by yourself. If you are by yourself, it can be lonely. And having that animal, it warms your heart. It gives you something to do, something to care for. It gives you a social life. So if you're going to those dog parks, you're going for walks, you're not by yourself anymore, right? So I find that is a huge, and I think they've actually done studies where owning a pet does help with mental health.
I think you said it perfectly.
Yeah, that was perfect. So I think that's it. Thank you, Parathan. Thank you, Juliana, for coming here today and presenting a workshop, Pet Care for Seniors. I think that was really fun and interesting and informative at the same time. So thank you, everyone, for coming here today. So if you want any other information, you can just email us at social community @fruitfulcommunities.ca, and you can contact us on our phone number as well. So, and see you at our next workshop on Mondays and Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.